Good day, everyone. Welcome to Viewed's exclusive webinar with the Fast Mode on content aggregation for operators, how to win from OTT disruption. Viewed is the leading provider of OTT and hybrid TV solutions for connected TV services, TVs and set-top boxes. Viewed enables OTT and hybrid TV on about 40 million TVs and STBs each year. I'm Tara Neil, the executive editor at the Fast Mode, a leading independent research, analysis and publishing company for telecommunications and IT technologies. And we are currently the largest media in this sector for Asia Pacific. So thank you for joining us in this session where we will be discussing pay TV operator strategies in a market where over-the-top services are becoming increasingly popular among consumers. As with all other markets, Southeast Asia is seeing a fair share of its content market being eaten up by these newcomers who offer many flexible plans and offerings. Pay TV operators, therefore, have to take heed of customer preferences and overall market demand in tailoring new and innovative offers that combine linear and, in fact, OTT content itself in flexible yet attractive offerings to retain and also grow their market share. Our agenda for today will be the market overview of pay TV in APAC and Southeast Asia. And then we are going to move to a discussion on OTT disruption, the technology, the UX and CX components, as well as the content side. And then we're also going to look at the new goal for operators and the strategies to reach it, and the other practical perspectives of this topic. And so with us today, we have Marco Fretolin, Head of Operator Products at Viewed. Hi, Marco. We would love to hear more about Viewed and how pay TV operators are responding to these challenges with innovative content aggregation strategies and more. So, Marco, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. Thanks to the Fast Mode for having me. Yeah, sure. We will have a look at that. Just before entering into that topic, let me share a couple of data about Viewed. We are a global technology company. We have more than 60 customers all over the world. And every year we ship 40 million devices with our software components on them, for a total number of over 300 million devices deployed worldwide. We have offices all over the world. And I think what is unique about Viewed is that we work both with smart TV manufacturers and also with pay TV operators. And I think that gives us a very unique perspective on the pay TV and the OTT market. In terms of pay TV specifically, we work with all the major set-top box vendors, middleware providers, and operators all over the world. And our solutions are completely cross-platform, so they are available on any kind of client device. So let's just start this webinar by having a look at the big picture and an overview of the situation in Asia Pacific when it comes to pay TV and OTT. So this chart shows the trends in different pay TV transmission technologies and OTT over the last 4 or 5 years. And it's easy to see that the basically traditional pay TV technologies, cable and satellite, are stable or slightly declining, while IPTV is growing. And of course, OTT is growing even more. So I think the overall takeaways here are that the IP-based services are winning, and but the most important takeaway is that while cable, IPTV, and satellite are alternative to each other, I think pay TV and OTT are not, which means that the pay TV operators have the possibility to basically capture the OTT growth, which is faster than pay TV growth itself. And this is the main point about that we are going to discuss in this presentation. It's also important to note that all charts and overview about Asia are heavily influenced by China and India because of their size. So let's have a look in more details to a couple of countries. We start off with Indonesia. So here we can see that there is a lot of untapped potential for pay TV in Indonesia, because the penetration is still a bit low. It's also interesting to note about Indonesia that in urban areas, like the capital, there are already operators that are bundling IPTV services with broadband, and that very often shifts like users away from DTH. While DTH, like satellite, is more successful in outside urban areas, where it's also free to air. So it is not like driving a lot of pay TV growth, and this trend is going to be visible also in other countries. In India, the economic situation has shown some like challenges in the last year or so. So pay TV growth has already slowed down in the last couple of years. So we expect the same rate going forward, more or less. But the scale of the market still allows for some growth. And India is specifically relevant and interesting because of the combination of a very fragmented cable market combined with a very fast growth of mobile broadband. So it will be very exciting to see how these two forces combine in developing the India market going forward. If we move to the Philippines, in the Philippines so far, pay TV has grown mainly driven by prepaid DTH services combined with a good economic situation. We expect the growth to continue, but slow down a little bit. A very important fact to note about Philippines is that the investments in broadband infrastructure are driven by both telcos and also cable operators. So this is another example of this convergence of pay TV and IP broadband also in the Philippines. And the last country we are having a look at is Vietnam. The economy in Vietnam is growing. The pay TV penetration is also quite high, mainly because in urban areas there is almost full penetration. So the pay TV growth over the next 5 years will be a little bit less than in the past 5 years, also here in Vietnam. And it will be mainly driven by completing the digital upgrades. And we are also starting to see some bundles of pay TV and telco services here in Vietnam as well. And so this is yet another example of this convergence of pay TV and IP and the internet, which is fundamentally the main aspect of OTT. So if we look at OTT and what it has meant and it means for pay TV, I think we can identify 3 key aspects in OTT disruption. There is a technology aspect, there is a user experience and customer experience, and there is content. So if we start with the technology aspects, it's important to note that OTT technology is impacting many different angles of the operator business. OTT technology is composed by 4 main elements. It's of course based on IP architectures. Everything is based on IP. Specifically on IP, OTT has introduced new technologies and new streaming protocols, adaptive bitrate protocols, and DRM as content protection, opposed to conditional access. All these IP protocols are meant to work on the open internet instead of closed managed networks, and all the systems are meant to work in the public cloud or in the cloud, which allows to share workflows and enable a more agile way of working. And these 4 main characteristics of OTT technology are increasingly successful because the increased availability of broadband, obviously, and here, like broadband is both fixed or mobile, and it's very interesting to see in some market a jump from basically no broadband or very limited broadband directly to mobile broadband. I think this will drive a lot of interesting bundling especially for telcos. Another factor who basically drives adoption of OTT technology is the fact that it is now sufficiently mature and proven. Both adaptive bitrate streaming protocols and also the capacity of public cloud are not under discussion anymore. And the cost has gone down, which means that using OTT technology makes economic sense in more and more cases. So this means for operators that OTT technology is used more and more for more services and use cases. Of course, video on demand and PVR were the first use cases to move to OTT technology and cloud. Now we see a lot of use cases around personalization and addressable TV, which take advantage of OTT. And the next step or the next milestone for OTT technology is, of course, to reach the level of broadcast for linear TV channels and live. We all look forward to the Tokyo Olympic Games next year and the Football World Cup in 2022 to see how much OTT technology will be able to provide the same reliability and the same low latency of broadcast. And there are a lot of companies working hard on that. And we shouldn't forget that the increased adoption of OTT technology also has an impact on the way of working for an operator. And a lot of operators, even the big ones, are embracing agile and the DevOps methodologies more and more. And we can illustrate the success of OTT technology by looking at this chart from Cisco, where they predict that CDN traffic, which is mostly video streaming over the internet, will grow much more than the traffic of TV services on managed networks, which will also grow, but much less. Now, not all CDN traffic is OTT, but a large part of it is. The other aspect of OTT impact on pay TV is user interface and user experience, and that is largely determined by the how user interfaces are designed on the web. UIs on the web are optimized to drive usage and engagement, so they are content-centric, context sensitive, and they are always evolving. Basically, we are used as consumers to see that everything changes very, very quickly in the online world, and the operators have to keep up with that. So they have to start using data, and they have to adapt their user interfaces to the ones we are used to find on the web. But there's more to user experience than just user interface. There is also the aspect of customer experience overall, and OTT is influencing that as well. Here in this chart, we see that in the United States, the net promoter score of TV and internet service providers is much lower than the one for streaming media companies. Up to the point where the best rated service provider is still gets a lower score than the worst streaming media company. Now, this is a little bit extreme, and I think it's important to remember this is for US, where pay TV is known to be quite expensive, and also broadband access in very large areas is a monopoly. So these two factors can explain why this net promoter score comparison is so extreme. But I think in general, this is This is also true for other areas of the world where OTT companies and streaming media services have raised the expectations in terms of consumer experience. And of course, pay TV operators have to learn to keep up with that. And last but not least, OTT impacts content choice. This is often considered the main aspect of OTT disruption, due to all the direct-to-consumer OTT services that have emerged in the last years. And here you can see that, especially in US, there have been a lot of OTT services over the last 12 years. And here we have also highlighted the one that are in Asia. And all this availability of content, of course, means two things. First of all, that it's a very crowded market, so not every OTT services can survive standalone. And of course, we have seen some failures and some consolidation already. And the second consequence is that there is a lot of choice for end users, to the point where maybe there is too much choice and it becomes a problem for end users to find the content they want. So with all this choice, the end users have to subscribe multiple OTT services. And why do they do that? Well, this survey done in Asia Pacific, it shows that the main reason end users move to OTT services is not price, but is actual content. They have to subscribe multiple OTT services to find the content they want, including niche content or special content. There is more or less a third of end users who believe that a combination of OTT subscriptions is going to be cheaper than pay TV, but they are not the majority. The vast majority of people look at OTT as a solution to access the content they love. And this is a key point to keep in mind for pay TV operators. So if that is what OTT means for pay TV, let's have a look at how operator can cope with that. And first of all, let's define what is the goal for operators in a new OTT world. Well, in our view, the goal for the operators is to provide end users with an integrated operator experience, where operators can solve both the platform fragmentation problem for the end users and the content fragmentation problem. So the pay TV operator can be the prime provider of content to the end user's home, and can basically simplify and improve the whole consumer journey needed to explore and discover content, pay for it, and consume it. And the operators that are able to do this, they have to create good product bundles, because it takes more than just stitching together different OTT services. It takes a complete new approach, and they are in a very good position to capture OTT growth. So how can an operator do that? Well, operator strategies are a very complex topic, and of course they are like a jigsaw puzzle where many different pieces have to be defined and put together in a coherent way. So in this webinar, we will focus on 3 pieces. Maybe we can have the other pieces in the next webinars. So the first piece we are going to look at is how to implement a modern TV user experience. And we just have to underline that the TV user experience is very important. The TV screen, or the first screen, is still the screen where people prefer to enjoy great content, and people spend a lot of time in front of it. These are market data from some countries in Asia, and of course there is a difference depending on the country and the end users' habits. But overall, a lot of time is spent in front of TV, and pay TV operators have to make sure that the user experience they provide on TV is excellent. And in the last years, of course, there have been a lot of changes in how a TV user experience is designed. So we went from a phase where the TV UX was technology-centric, and the UX was organized depending on how the content was packaged and delivered and when it was available. So the end users had to make a little bit of effort to understand the technology, or at least be aware of the technology behind pay TV, because the UX was arranged around that, with a lot of special functions that were also available as buttons on the remote control. Now, also thanks to OTT impact and the impact of the web, we have moved into a phase where modern TV UX is not technology-driven, but it's content-driven. So content has to take the prime position in the UI, both in terms of picture, metadata, and also actual video. And what is around the content, the main content, has to be driven by context. So content discovery is not based on what type of services you have or how the content is delivered, but it's instead determined by what is relevant in that specific moment for that specific user. So, of course, data and personalization are also paramount. I also want to underline here that until a couple of years ago, there was a lot of hope about algorithmic recommendations, but then the industry has realized that they are a very important ingredient in the mix, but algorithmic recommendations cannot solve every problem, and the operator have to mix them with some editorial recommendation as well, to be able to make sure that the user experience is always like fresh, and make sure that algorithmic recommendations don't put the end users in a corner and keep recommending always the same content. And when you have the UX designed like that, then you have to use any type of technology in a seamless way to just deliver any type of content to the TV screen. So the technology aspect is much, much less relevant for UX design. Another key aspect of operator strategies is the decision about what devices should be used to reach the TV screen. And there are, of course, many different options there, and there is no one size fits all. So every operator has to look at all the options available in terms of devices to reach the TV screen and define its optimal portfolio. Typically, we would see operators sitting on the left side of this chart, basically providing some devices to the end users, like multimedia gateways or smart home hubs or hybrid set-top boxes. And typically we would see OTT service providers instead sitting on the right side of this chart, having just apps running on devices purchased by end users. Now, thanks to OTT technologies instead, operators can also extend to the right side of the chart. And of course, there are advantages and disadvantages doing so. The typical devices provided by operators to end users require higher CapEx investments, but on the other side, they can provide customized features. They provide full control to the operators who run them in a walled garden. And they can also enable more bundling opportunities, especially if they have to be combined with data access or smart home functionality. While the devices on the right side, they have the clear advantage of have a much lower capex impact since the end users are purchasing them. But on the other side, the features are standard, so they are the same. And on these devices, the end users can run competing services. So the pay TV operator has to be a little bit careful that if their only option is to run applications on these devices, then they are going to increase the room for competition. And the big risk here is that both the pay TV service and also for telcos, the data service can get commoditized. Overall, however, OTT technologies allow the operator to extend from the left side and make steps to the right side, increase the formats that are offered, and also introduce new and different devices to address different targets of end users. So, for instance, in the last years, we've seen a lot of operators successfully launching small boxes or HDMI dongles, HDMI sticks, which are IP only and are a great solution to cater for people that are not considering a full pay TV subscription. In the last years, some operators have also launched sound bars or smart speakers, so these audio-based form factors. And they are interesting because in this case, you can, of course, partially subsidize them, but they can also require an investment for the end user if they are on the market looking for this type of devices. And then there is the option of an operator TV, which is a TV set co-branded and also possibly co-marketed with a smart TV manufacturer, where the experience is completely customized by the operator. So this could be a great option to avoid the investment of in a set-top box in like certain situations, but at the same time have a completely branded device which is not completely open to competing services. And of course, all these devices, if the pay TV operator is also a telco, all these devices allow to target customers off network, which means expand the reach of the service. The third piece of the operator strategy puzzle that we are going to look into now is the content strategy. Of course, this is a very complex topic. It's very hard to like summarize it in a single slide. But I think we can identify a couple of principles that can guide the operator in building the perfect content mix for end users. So the first layer of content is, of course, premium content. This is going to be the anchor of the content bundle, the content offer that is attracting users. And it's typically exclusive content that the operator can offer in their region. Could even be some own production or partner production. A lot of big operators are now starting basically producing their own originals. And it could also be an early to market or even first to market, if possible, OTT app. And we see this in Europe, for instance, in some markets where pay TV operators partners with Disney. The second layer in the content mix is basically all the global and local content which is needed to make a complete offer. This is the content that end users expect from a pay TV service, if it has to be the main content service for the home. So here we have a complete lineup of linear TV channels. Here we have the must-have global OTT apps that end users love, and they have to be part of the pay TV service, because if they are not, the end users will find ways to access them anyway, but then they will leave the pay TV environment, and of course the risk is that they never come back. So those are the two must-haves, but then there is a third aspect, which is focus on local content, and this is where the operator can really make a difference because of their local presence and the local knowledge of the market. They can really make sure that all the interesting and relevant local content is part of the offer. And then, last but not least, the operator can enrich and differentiate their offer by adding new categories of content, long tail, niche, and special content, to make sure that end users always find something relevant and unexpected in their UI, in their TV service. And this is also very interesting, because the premium content and the local content can basically drive a lot of interest for long tail content that can be used to keep the offer always fresh. So now that we have had a look at three elements of the operator strategy to capture growth of OTT, let's have a look at some practical tips that we can give you to really create an integrated operator experience for your TV service. So the first tip is to really leverage hybrid technology at its fullest, which means that pay TV is, of course, based on broadcast technologies, in many cases, satellite, cable, or digital terrestrial. And when the box is connected to IP, the two worlds of pay TV and OTT don't have to be separate. Quite the opposite, they have to be merged and integrated, so that IP and OTT services and data can be used to enrich the broadcast experience. You can also merge broadcast and OTT channels in one single list, up to the point where OTT services or apps, in some cases, can be presented as channels. And this is all to make sure that all the users can access the new OTT-enabled services, while at the same time not be confused by the amount of content and features that are available. Because it's also important to remember that a lot of pay TV users, they actually love the normal zapping experience. So it's important to make sure that when adding IP and OTT features to a pay TV box, we don't confuse and scare them off. So we have to strike the right balance of keeping the experience familiar, but enrich it with new features. The next tip is that we have to rethink apps as content sources. There was a time where someone said the future of TV is in the apps. I think the industry is past that right now, but apps are still very, very important, because they provide access to a lot of different and interesting content. So the apps can be kept as part of the UX and UI, but it's important to rethink them as sources of content. And so the pay TV operator has to make sure that the consumer journey from the UI inside the app and to the content asset is as simple, as fast as possible, which means also removing some friction caused by searching for the app, downloading it, and installing it. And this means that pre-installed apps are very, very important. HTML5 based apps that don't need to be installed are also very useful, and deep links can and have to be used more and more to basically skip the app discovery phase and go right in the content discovery. The third tip is experiment with new type of content. And here we see in the market that gaming is very successful. And as we might all know, gaming as an industry has become bigger than TV and movies. I think it was a couple of years ago, if I'm not wrong. But as of now, in terms of consumers, it's still an experience mainly limited to gamers. So even if it's very big, it's somehow still a little bit of a niche experience for people who are expert about that. Now, the pay TV operator is in the excellent position to introduce this experience to the general public or to all their pay TV subscribers. And this can be done if the pay TV operator makes it easy for subscribers to basically try out games, find them, test them. And the pay TV operator, thanks to cloud gaming technology, can also remove all the obstacles that are there to actually get to the games in the normal way, which means buying an expensive console, buying the games, and so on. So the pay TV operator can use a cloud gaming service to just enrich the user experience and the content offer with the cloud games, because after all, they are just an additional type of content in the same way as we consider video on demand or catch-up TV or linear TV channels. So they can be basically merged with the entire content offer. In terms of merging different types of content together, operators can also experiment with what we call thematic aggregation, which means that if there is a specific event or a specific topic which is very, very relevant at a specific time, could be an important live event or typically a sport event, then the operator can combine in their user experience that premium content related to the event, which is often live coverage of the event itself and premium content around that, combine that content with other content, which is not necessarily premium, but it becomes very, very relevant because of its connection with the main one. And this could be games, could be long tail content or niche content, and all the hype and interest which is created in a specific country or region of the world by the live event can be leveraged by the operator to create a specific content proposition around that. And of course, this is only possible if the operator has the possibility to basically customize and adapt the user experience very, very quickly to make sure that this specific aggregation is available at the right time, in the right place, and it lasts until the live event is over. The next point is about legacy boxes, which is, of course, an issue that all the operators share, because all pay TV operators have legacy system and legacy boxes in field. So as much as we get excited by launching new boxes and new services, operators know that they have to live with the boxes that they have launched already, that they are in field. And in many cases, these boxes are not powerful enough that they can be upgraded with the complete OTT experience that we have seen so far. So in this case, an important part of operator strategy is to make sure that these boxes are not just left behind, because they are an important investment for the operator, so they have to be kept alive as long as possible. And when it comes to OTT, we need to involve them in this shift towards OTT, and we can do that by defining a subset of OTT features or a simplified and streamlined OTT experience, and we can still deploy that on legacy boxes thanks to, for instance, cloud technologies or IP connectivity. So in this case, the full hybrid OTT experience is probably not possible on legacy boxes in the same way as it is possible on newer boxes, but still they can be kept up to date so that the end users don't feel they are left behind. And at the same time, these upgrades can be used to basically promote the more advanced flagship pay TV box. This tip is about finding ways to appeal to cord nevers or cord cutters, shifters, shavers, and whatnot. So all the new generations of end users who are not used to pay TV at all, they don't feel the necessity of a pay TV subscription, and they turn to OTT video streaming as the main and only source of entertainment for the home. And of course, we see market projections where the video traffic driven by media players is increasing, while set-top boxes are declining. Now, I think we should look at this with a grain of salt, and we shouldn't consider this a doom prediction, but it's important to understand that an increasing subset of end users need to see a pay TV offer which is not completely based on a set-top box. So if we think about the portfolio of devices that the operator can have, then we see clearly that we need to identify small, easy devices like IP dongles or HDMI sticks or apps that can be used to introduce these end users to pay TV services, and then maybe over time, like move them to the flagship set-top box. Last but not least, pay TV operators that create a product bundle for pay TV services and potentially other services like smart home or data, they are in the very good position of being able to innovate and experiment with pricing model, because the billing relationship of a pay TV operator is a very important asset. And of course, market studies show that when a product bundle is defined, the consumers perceive its value in a non-linear way. So it's not just a matter of adding more features or adding more like services and increasing the price of the bundle. The point is finding the point of balance where the right product bundle is perceived with a lot of value from the end users. And to do that, of course, operators can rely on their experience and knowledge of the market, but it's also important to experiment with pricing models. And from the OTT world, we have learned that all pricing models based on something free, at least at the beginning, work. So free trials, freemium models, or models which are partially free and funded by advertisement, they are all interesting options that can appeal to at least some consumers. So here again, it's not a matter of finding the right pricing model for every user. It's a matter of defining a couple of different ones that allow to address all the users. And then, of course, experiment with product bundling, where not only TV services can be included in the bundle, but also other services like data or others. So here's a summary of the presentation. So we have started off by looking at pay TV trends in Asia and some specific countries in Southeast Asia. And we have seen that pay TV growth will continue, but slow down a little bit. We have looked into the three main aspects of OTT disruption, which are technology, user experience and customer experience, and content choice. We have explained that in this new world of OTT, the main goal for the operators is to provide an integrated operator experience to end users. And we have explained three elements of an operator strategy to achieve that, which is focus on providing an excellent TV user experience, identify the right portfolio of client devices to implement that, and identify the perfect content mix. And then we have given you some practical tips. And we believe that the operators that are able to implement those strategies are in an excellent position to capture OTT growth and win going forward. With that, I would like to thank you, Tara, very, very much. And if you have any question going forward, you can visit our website or you can reach out to me directly at my email.
Thank you, Marco. Great insights into how operators can take on the disruption by OTT players with some great analysis on both the strategy, technology, as well as customer experience aspects of this fast-growing market. Yeah, so you can type in your questions in the chat box. And as Marco said, you can, to learn more about Viewed's operator products and solutions, including their brand new Viewed OPX, you can visit their website, vewd.com, or get in touch with Marco.